Hello everyone, I am Raja Krishnan Vallur Sridhar. I am a UX design student at CareerFoundry. Welcome to my presentation on my process of designing EZLingo, a vocabulary learning app based on UX design principles and design thinking methodology. So let's begin. EZLingo is a mobile app aimed at vocabulary learning, especially for a foreign language designed for Android operating systems. The app was developed using the design thinking methodology and aims to meet the expectations of its users. The app hopes to empower people to learn vocabulary and be a convenient and fun experience. The main focus of the app is to learn words by retention. It makes use of flashcards for this purpose. It also focuses on making the process of learning new words engaging so as to stand out from other simple flashcard apps. Let's meet our persona. This is Vivikta. She's 29 years old, is a software developer by trade, and lives in Karlsruhe, a city in the southern part of Germany. Vivikta is originally from India. She is an engineering school graduate and is single. She likes reading, listening to podcasts and audiobooks. She works full-time in an international office environment. She loves technology and is mostly on her phone or laptop exploring different things of her interest. She also likes to socialize but feels shy and awkward due to her limited German skills. Her primary goals and motivations include to learn enough vocabulary to start having conversations in German, to have the freedom and flexibility to learn at her own pace, and to have a fun and interesting app to keep her motivated. Let's look at the problem that we are trying to solve. Vivikta needs a vocabulary learning app to help her make basic conversations in German. She needs an app that allows for personalized learning, which is also easy to use, quick, and engaging so that she does not lose motivation while learning. She won't enroll in a language learning course as it is too expensive and inflexible for her. She believes that context-based lessons like stories help her learn the language better. We frame the problem statement as follows. Vivikta needs an app for learning German words that she can use in her day-to-day life because she wishes to communicate more with her colleagues and other people. We will know this to be true when she has access to words that are used in real-life situations that she can learn and use. Let's look at some of the challenges that our persona faces. Limited learning time due to a full-time job. Vivikta works 40 hours per week, plus about 90 minutes of commute each day, leaves a very little time to tend to other things during the week. She needs context. She wants to learn words that can be used in her daily life to make conversation. Vivikta's motivation to learn the language is to converse with her colleagues and flatmates. She wants to learn words that she can use for this purpose. Memorizing new words has always been difficult. Vivikta needs a method or process that relies on repetition to help her register words successfully. The learning process should be new and innovative than just some words listed. Vivikta has tried word lists and vocabulary guides, but feels that those are too dry and she is unable to learn after a while. Non-intensive learning. Something that can be done while enjoying her cup of tea. Vivikta is usually quite tired after her work day. She doesn't want an intensive and rigorous learning experience, rather something that can be done in 10 to 15 minutes. Learning process should be fun and engaging so that she doesn't lose motivation. Vivikta has struggled with motivation while learning German. She wants an experience with the app that makes her revisit the app on a daily basis. Let's take a look at the user flows now. User flow charts are created to prepare for the low-fidelity wireframing and prototyping process. The user flow displays the steps that Vivikta will take in order to create a flashcard deck, which is a collection of flashcards categorized by a customized label. The entry point or the point of access for the user is Open App. The success criteria of when the task is said to be successfully completed is when the user creates a flashcard deck with cards. The second user flow displays the steps taken by Vivikta for the task Complete a Story. Story is a lesson with a few new words for the user to learn. It combines classic storytelling with an element of quizzing to make the user more invested in the lesson. The entry point for the user is Open App, and the success criteria is when the user completes the story. Moving on to the wireframing and prototyping phase. Low fidelity wireframes focused on conceptualizing ideas for the different screens that the app would have. Wireframes designed were a combination of pen and paper as well as the tool Pop or Marvel. I started out by drawing pen and paper based sketches for the previously mentioned user flows. Owing to legibility issues, I designed low to mid fidelity wireframes to show the user flow in terms of app screens. Shown here are the deck screen, the completed lesson screen, the settings screen, and a screen that prompts an acknowledgement when user answers a question correctly when in a story. The low fidelity prototype developed stressed on how these wireframes are connected and if this proves to be a coherent and intuitive experience for the user. Prototyping was carried out using the Pop or Marvel tool. I have linked the prototype which contains all the screens at the end of this presentation. For people who might be interested, feel free to have a look and give feedback. We then move on to the usability testing phase. Users tested the first prototype of EZLingo. 4 participants were involved in 15-minute moderated video conferencing sessions. Participants were asked to complete 4 tasks under observation and were encouraged to think out aloud. Attention was given on the aspects the testers liked, their frustrations, any confusions, and potential roadblocks that were expressed either verbally or non-verbally. The first task was to open the app and land on the home screen. This was to test if the flow is intuitive from launching the app to the splash screens and finally the home screen. The second task was to create a new deck and add a new flashcard to it. This was to test if the customized deck and the flashcard creation is user-friendly and serves the purpose of registering and categorizing words. The third task was to complete a story. This was to test if the user flow of selecting a lesson from the Stories tab, answering questions and navigating back, and check what stood out as engaging. The fourth task was to view the profile and app settings. This was to test if the user is happy with the app setting options and preferences and how convenient or not is it to change these settings. There was a lot of honest and constructive feedback from the participants. I'm highlighting some of the most important ones here. The 3 that I am currently pointing out to were classified as major usability issues, which I would be discussing in the upcoming slides. The other 2 issues were classified as minor usability issues and were addressed in the prototype design. Let's look at some of the major usability issues. Not being able to see the card post creation and at any other time when accessing decks was a major flaw, something which I completely overlooked. The mentality of the users was like this: how do I view the card? The second major flaw that I noticed was the lack of an onboarding process, which left users confused on how to use the app. I assumed participants would know what flashcards are, which was a big issue. This confused the participants as to what to do next. Let's look at the improvements or the fixes that I implemented to address the aforementioned issues. I added screens which allowed the user to see the created card. If a pronunciation is added by the user, the sound icon denoting that would be activated, which would allow the user to listen to the pronunciation as well. The screens allows the user to see the created card. The second issue was about the onboarding. So I've added some basic onboarding screens to help the user give a sense of direction and a simple how-to with the features of the app. The key next steps that I've underlined are as follows. More screens and animation to the onboarding process, especially for decks and stories tabs, to make it more user-friendly while also explaining what certain symbols in the app mean. Work on some basic UI elements, the color, typography, and also some basic animation. Add more content to decks and stories and conduct usability tests again to identify pain points for the user. What lessons did I learn during my design process of EZLingo? I would divide it into two parts: principles or guidelines relating to the UX design process and the best practices that I have adopted that applies personally to me. For the principles, the first 2 points relate to the user interviews and the usability testing part, where I interact with the users specifically and what were the red flags and how best to avoid them or deal with them were clearly mentioned, and I'm really grateful for that. The last 2 points are a reflection of the core underlying principle of the UX design process, which I realized only sometime during the mid stage of my designing process, and I will continue to adopt this approach, and I will continue to take these learnings for my future endeavors. Regarding the best practices, for the first point, personally, I have struggled with time while working with the stages of the UX design process involving visual elements. This was and continues to be a major learning point for me. The second point is to ascertain the minimum viable product to be released for usability testing. The third point has helped me address the precise issues that the users were encountering. And the final point was necessary to strike a balance between delivered products versus resources. This also ties in with a key principle of UX design: the earlier you test the product, the better. Here is the link to my prototype. I would like to thank you all for your attention. This concludes my presentation.